Okay, hey, we're here. What's
Yes,
good? What's good, people's? Big said the industry cosign back with another friend that I've met many years ago.
no
We've
doubt.
worked we've worked together, and actually, um, if memory serves correct, this man was the first rapper I ever featured on Black Enterprise.
Yeah. Oh, really?
First rapper. Yeah, I'm 98% sure.
Wow.
I believe you're the first rapper because I remember when I did cover you, you had just become an attorney.
That's
But
right.
we'll get into that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So what I typically do is I allow my guests to introduce themselves.
Hmm.
That way, if I mess up, I don't have to worry about it. So if you mess up, it doesn't matter because it's you. So what's good, sir?
How you doing, man? What's good, my brother said, man? This is Tracy Lee, MC, attorney, family man, father, husband, entrepreneur, author, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I'm saying? Been in this game for, professionally, if you will, for almost 30 years or getting close to 30 years, in between 25 and 30, but who's counting? Um, and just just all around good guy, man.
I try,
Yeah.
but there's one thing that is definite. You and your wife are the first husband and wife I featured on Black Enterprise as well.
Now that's a fact. Now I think that might be a fact. Yeah,
That
there
is
we
a fact.
go.
And
Yeah,
I know several power couples, but the two of you were the first one I covered individually, and I appreciate the fact that the two of you allowed me to do that.
oh
So
no, it was an honor, brother. Any if it had to be somebody, it was going to be you, man. So we appreciate
I
you.
appreciate that.
Yes, sir. You froze up on me. Oh,
Computer just doesn't want me. Could you cooperate with me, please, computer?
there, there
I,
we go. There
I,
we go.
I've done well. I paid you off. I paid you off. You can work with me at least for the next half hour. Anything else
Right.
that we can take it. But
Right.
anyway, I first met you. A little background. I first met you when you were recording your first album,
That's right.
and I went to school with Mark Pitts. Me and
Mm,
Mark Pitts were good friends from high school, and I
mhm.
know you met him in college at Howard
Yes.
University. Uh,
Yes.
Everybody but me went to Howard University,
Uh-huh.
and at the time, I was producing, and I submitted a tape to Mark. I went
Hmm.
to his office, and the funny thing is, the very first track that was on the tape. Now you know it's got to be a while ago because I said tape,
Yeah,
not
exactly.
not CD,
Exactly.
but tape. Maybe it was a CD. Well, I can't remember. But anyway, the very first track he heard, his head was like, "Yo, this is it. This is it. We're using this." Like I may have had like 10, 12 songs in that. He didn't care about anything else. Didn't even pick anything else. And was
Wow.
I said, "So you think Tracy Lee?" He's like, "I don't care. We're using this." So that was a good sign for me because, of course, an artist should have a choice of what they're gonna
Yeah.
put on. So,
Yeah.
but and that was back in the Universal days, and I remember that. I think if memory serves correct, I might be the only producer on the album, on your first album, Many Faces, that wasn't connected with Derek Angeletti. If I'm correct, I
You
know.
you were one of two. It,
Okay.
it was you and it was Ike Lee the third.
Oh, that's
Salute.
right. Yeah, exactly.
You
Yeah.
did keep your
Right.
hands high.
Because
Yep.
I know everyone else was definitely associated with D Dot.
Yep.
Actually, I know I'm probably going to be all over the place during this whole thing, so
It's all good.
don't mind me. But being that I just mentioned Derek D Dot,
Yeah.
um, coincidentally, I literally just saw the what's the name of the
Oh, the
podcast?
math hopper joint.
Math Hoffa. I want to say the
Yeah.
name of I can't even remember, but
My expert opinion.
my expert opinion, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Coincidentally, I just saw that the other day, and I know he did this about a couple weeks ago.
Hmm.
And I rarely, I mean, I can't, and I hate to be like judgmental when I say this.
I know.
Most podcasts I can't look at from beginning to end.
Got you.
Most, except it is what it is. I love
Yeah.
Cam and me, but that's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
But Derek was on the program, and I looked at it from back to forth, and your name came up,
Mm-hmm.
and I was definitely I didn't realize at the time when Mav Hoffa had said that had asked Derek about um Notorious B.I.G.
Mm-hmm.
actually being featured on your song "Keep Your Hands Up,"
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize I didn't even realize it until he said it that he didn't do many features.
No.
And what Derek said was like you were basically the first one that was basically new that he wanted to be on, and he was approached by many artists, and I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure that, I mean Jay-Z, I mean like Method Man, Jay-Z, Shaq. It's like the people that actually had a feature with Biggie, like you're
Mm-hmm.
one of the few out
Mm-hmm.
of I mean out of the few,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the way Derek explained it was like Biggie wanted to be on it because Derek played, because I think Derek whatever Derek was, of course, was working with Bad Boy, with Puff and the Hitman and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
And like I guess when he was doing your project as well,
Mm-hmm.
that he presented to Biggie and Biggie wanted to be on this. Why don't you get into that story? Because you
Yeah.
know you were there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what he said was, factually correct, and to build on that, really, it was Mark before I even got signed, right? He had my demos, because we were in the process. Derek presented the idea to Mark to even sign me in the first place,
Yeah,
but Big was also in the cars listening to the demo before I even got signed. So Mark was essentially looking for the cosign from Big as well because Mark was managing Big at the time.
yeah,
So it was a process. It wasn't like, yeah, now I got my artist, Trey, Big, just, go ahead and do me the solid and jump in the booth. Nah, Big had been listening to me for like a year. You know what I'm saying? Before we even got in the booth. You know what I mean? And this was based off of the demos that he had heard because, you know, Mark was looking for that. Yo, what you think? What you think about this cat I'm about to sign? And Big was like, yo, your man, like Dot said, yo, Derek, your man is nice. Yo, Mark, your man is nice. But again, this is before I even got signed. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? So, as far as, what I mean, him doing a feature with me, it wasn't like, again, it wasn't a favor because he didn't do features for just anybody. You know what I'm saying? He had the right to say no. He could have been like, nah, your man is whack and all that. But no, he heard something that was dope to his ears and
yeah,
said, yeah, let's get busy. But then there's the competitive nature of being an MC where if I'm gonna get on a record with him, I'm coming with it. And if for a lot of people, especially for Mav Hopper, he even admitted it on several occasions. Those are some of Big's best bars ever, right? So why would he give Trey Lee his best bars? He had to hear something coming from this perspective that made him say, "Yo, I need to step my game up." You see what I'm
exactly.
saying? But nobody wants to admit that. Nobody wants to give any kind of credit or credence to that aspect. In order for somebody to give you their best, they gotta know that whoever I'm dealing with is coming with it. So, but again, that gets swept under the rug, say, you know what I mean? But what Dot said, everything that he said about that song and me and Big getting in the booth and actually creating that record was absolutely true. You know what I'm saying? So, salute to D Dot for clearing the air and clearing the record. You know what I mean?
Well, the one thing he did state, and that even the guys that were in the barbershop did agree with, were the fact that you've always been underrated, and a lot of people have always, the expectation, especially with your first single,
Mm-hmm.
um, the expectations were so high because of your lyrical prowess, and the fact that I had a personal stake in it because, oh, I didn't mention, I also produced the title track for anyone who doesn't know.
I was going to mention that, brother. Let's be clear, everyone. Said is a producer. Said that was the first record you heard when you, aside from Tracey intro, then you hear the title track "Many Faces," which sets you up for the entire for
Yeah,
the entire album. And it was crazy, like going back to when you gave him, the tape, and that was, Mark presented it to me. I mean, the idea to create these characters immediately came to me when I heard that track said. So it was like, even though Mark was like, no, we're going to use it. And of course, you know, I was hoping I would fall in love with it, but I fell in love with it instantly because, again, the characters came instantly as soon as I heard that track. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like I said, I had a personal stake in it because, of course, I produced it, and you know, my name was on the album.
For sure.
But I'm gonna tell you one thing I didn't realize until literally today. I was hanging out with somebody earlier because I went to a Nike event, and I, you know, he knows who you are, so I was like, yeah, I'm talking to Tracey Lee today. He's like, yo, this, that, and the other, and I was like, oh, by the way, I produced the title track. He's like, get the fuck out of here. So I went to my phone, so I, you know, I put in Tracey Lee, Many Faces, and then the Wikipedia page came up. I didn't notice until I saw it. I'm listed first. They had producers. I'm listed first.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh shit. I'm like,
yep.
I got a little beside myself when I saw that. I was like, you put the page and my name comes up first. And the thing is, because I was mad at well, I'm not gonna say his name, but no, I was mad at Kirk who worked with because everyone knew me as Big Ced.
Right.
He put down Cedric Thornton. I love my name. Nothing wrong with him. But nobody correlated. So, like, I'm like, yo, I'm Big Ced. It's like, you know, even at Black Enterprise, it says Cedric, Big Ced, Thornton.
That's right.
It says Cedric Thornton, but that's another issue. But I was shocked to see that because, of course, I got beside myself. I'm like, yo, my name is listed first.
That's a fact.
But anyway, but the thing was, and this guy was the first, he said it. He said they fucked that man's album up because that second single shouldn't have been the second single. Yep. He said he came in with the it's party time and this and that, then do a remix with Buster, and then you come with this slow song, this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
I was like, because at the time when they were doing, I'm like, who am I? I'm just, you know, somebody who just did a song on the album. Right. But when I found out what the second single was, and not to say that the second single wasn't good,
right,
but the vibe, and it was released at the summertime.
That's right.
Like I said, for me, I'm like, y'all are fucking up my career because if I'm like, okay, of course I'm biased. You should have released Many Faces because that would have put it on this level, this, that, and the other. I could have got work, blah, blah, blah. But you know, but I mean, how do you feel knowing that you had the type of records that could have placed you on the expectation, on the level that people were expecting you to be? Because even back then, people that knew that I was associated with the album said to me, why would they put that out after this? Like, how did you feel when that did happen?
I mean, you know, hindsight being 2020, of course, now, you know, all of that was, it was supposed to go down the way it went down. But at the time, you know, I felt like I didn't have any control. And the truth of the matter is, I actually did have more control for a first time signed artist to be able to work with the producers I wanted to work with, to produce 5 of the tracks on the album, to have, you know, a lot of creative control with regards to the records that actually ended up on the album. But I felt like I lost control with that particular record because it was unanimous. It was almost a unanimous thing on it. And I'm gonna call Mark out on this. Mark and Wayne are the ones that wanted "Give It Up, Baby" because they were caught up at that particular time into this whole, it's the summertime, it's a West Coast feel and all this other. And we were like, no, we need Stars in the East. Most of us wanted Stars in the East. And I think Stars in the East at that particular time for the summer and for it to be a not maybe as high energy as the theme is Party Time, but something close.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we didn't have a record like It's Party Time. The theme is Party Time. We ain't have another record like that on the album. But that was the beauty of Many Faces. None of the records were the same. It was Many Faces, but at least Stars in the East could kind of push that envelope, and it had a nice groove that could get us through the summer. You know what I'm saying? So that was the one that we wanted, and that ended up being on the B side. But it's like, what use is it being on the B side if y'all pushing and doing the video for Give It Up, Baby? And like you said, Give It Up, Baby is a hot record. It's just on the heels of the theme. Nah, you can't do that.
Like if that was the first single, that's a different story.
Right.
But you riding this high, you know, you got Busta Rhymes, you got this, you got everybody dancing, and you go like, "Give it up, baby," and it's like,
nah.
Like, you know,
nah. But you know, such is life.
It is what it is. I want to give props to Mark Pitts, like I said, we went to high school together,
Sure.
and he gave me the opportunity. Even though I produced records before, your record was the first record that I got on a major label.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so and it was the biggest check I got at that time. So
Oh,
I
that's
was
what's up.
happy, because I did little independent. We even at one time I even have my own label with some other artists, and like I
Yeah.
said, I did a couple of things before that, but that was my first major label check, and the only
I'm glad I could oblige, brother.
yeah, and if I could have kept it, I would have. But if I kept it, then I wouldn't be able to spend the money that was in it. So, but
Yeah.
anyway, so I want to basically, the same guy I was talking to about earlier. He asked me, and I never thought about this until he asked me. He says, with how the record was going and his connections to D Dot and
Mhm.
marking them, how come he never signed with Bad Boy?
Mm.
And I was like, wow, that's a good question. Why didn't you? Or like, yeah, when he asked it, I was like, actually, I'm going to ask him that question because as long as I've known you, do any particular situation, I never thought about you actually even signing with Bad Boy. So, I mean, what was that? What was that something that could have happened? Like, I mean, why didn't you sign with Bad Boy?
Well, I mean, it's funny you should ask that. I'll say so. My crew, we call ourselves RNF. It
Real
consisted
nigga,
of
real
myself.
nigga flow.
Yeah, real nigga flow, which is actually Power Move back in college. But then once we connected with the Bronx, then that brought the college cats and the street cats together, and we created RNF. But inside of that crew, it was myself, it was One Step Beyond, and it was the Reaps. Now, myself and the Reaps signed to Universal. One Step Beyond was actually the group that was this close to signing the Bad Boy. And the Locks kind of took their place, if you will. I don't know what happened within that. I don't know if it got to the negotiation process, but I know they were cutting records. They had been to the house in Mount Vernon, you know what I'm saying, and all of that. So, that was that close to happening. But as far as my situation with Bad Boy, I don't think Puff really rocked with me like that. You know what I'm saying? To be honest. And they had saw us perform at several shows down at Howard, whether it be the hip hop conference or a talent show or what have you. But there were people that had their eyeballs on our crew. You know what I'm saying? And so One Step Beyond was actually the group that he was most interested in. But nah, Puff never rocked with me like that. You know what I'm saying?
And I realize that because I'm gonna be, I don't care where I live, where I am, I'm always gonna represent the Bronx. So that was a great thing with the Reaps
Yeah.
and
Oh,
the
for
Bronx
sure.
connection. And my friends teased me like after I did the trap because they knew about the Reaps, and they was like, Trey Lee is from Delaware,
Mm-hmm.
and
Uh-huh.
these Bronx guys, like how did that happen?
Well, I mean, that was a college thing, you know what I'm saying? And I spent, I went to school in Delaware for about a year, and then, no, maybe a year and a half, but then I moved to Philly. And so Philly is where I grew up, essentially.
Delaware.
So, and then from Philly went to Howard, and then at Howard, what I'm saying, is where my man Mike, who's from the Bronx, you know, that's how that connection was made. So with Pie and Born and Fever, God rest his soul. So that's Howard was the incubator. Howard was the place that you get all these walks of life coming from different places and things like that. Like I said, from Philly, from the Bronx, from Oakland, from Louisiana, from what I'm saying. So that's how all of that happened. You know what I mean? And the connection was organic. You know what I'm saying? And the beauty of our crew is that again, you got different walks of life that give the entire thing a nice balance. You got the educated cats, you got the street cats, but we all kind of kind of synergize with one another. You know what I'm saying? It was still like-minded people. You know what I'm saying? And so when we came into the industry, it was a different vibe. It was a different take, and a lot of cats in the industry kind of looked at us like, who are they? You know what I'm saying? Like, not to say that we were eyeballs, but we didn't move like them. You know what I'm saying? Said the industry is cliquish. So we kind of hung amongst each other. We never really assimilated with the industry like that. And so we kind of stood out in a lot of ways, you know what I'm saying?
And I didn't realize this until I saw that same Wikipedia page that you're from Buffalo.
I was born in Buffalo, New York. My mom moved around a lot, man. I was born in Buffalo. I lived in Albany. I lived in New Orleans. I've lived in Delaware, like I said, primary years, you know what I'm saying, or should I say the years of the from 1980, let's say 80, 81 to 1988 was in Philadelphia. You know what I mean?
Starts in 2 hours.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like Buffalo. I've heard Philly. I've heard Delaware. I've heard even.
Yeah, my mom was born and raised in Buffalo, so you know we had you know family up there for many years, but now most of them have moved to Atlanta, where everybody else is. You know what I'm saying?
Now the reason why when I first started working at Black Enterprise, damn, it had to be over 10, yeah, more than 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons why I approached you about profiling you is because I think, yeah, I was informed that you were an attorney.
Yeah.
That, you know, and what, I mean, of course, you discussed it in the article at that time,
Mm-hmm.
but now let's discuss it again.
Mm-hmm.
What made you become an attorney?
The business, man. I mean, it's like to me that was the natural evolution, but it wasn't. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that it wasn't of my own doing. Meaning, you know, going through the trials and tribulations of being a signed artist and all that stuff, and being on a label and all that, you learn some things that you never thought, because back then it was all about getting signed, right? So the business acumen was not there. You know what I mean? So you learn the business acumen as you go along. Now, you know, of course, when you learn as you go along, there are going to be some bumps in the road. And so, you know, my career as a sign artist didn't end, you know, like I wanted it to. I got dropped in 2000, 2001, something like that. But it gave me a minute to kind of like, you know, reflect and kind of figure out what the next pivot was going to be. And so, you know, me being a spiritual cat, man, I got down, and I love telling this story, and I'm going to continue to tell this story every time I get a platform. I got down to my last $7. And so, you know, I'm heavy praying. You know what I'm saying? Sending prayers up every day, like, God, show me the way. You know what I mean? And so, you know, I took that last $7 and I went to, you know, the church and put it in a collection plate as a token of faith. Like I tried to figure it out. I just can't figure it out. So you handle it. And so I get a call from Wayne Barrow a week later after that, you know, after I put the money in the offering. And he said, or maybe 2 weeks later, something like that. And he says, you know, Universal Publishing has a check for you, but they don't have an address. So here's a number, call them, give them the address, and then they'll send you the money. So I did that. About a week later, after I made that phone call, or 2 weeks later, something, I get a check for $7,000. And then a week after that, I get another check for $57,000. And so now, you know, it puts me in a position to be able to make a move, whatever the move is going to be. And so that's when it dawned on me, you know, to further my education, not just for the sake of furthering the education, but using it, using that education to be able to help yourself and help others in the game. Because we're still doing records at the time. You know, we're still trying to be active in the game, but just from an independent perspective. But I felt like I didn't get the kind of guidance that I needed as a signed artist, even when I signed my deal, because the lawyer that I had, you know what I'm saying, who coincidentally, you know, worked the deal, and then I never heard from him again. But, you know what I'm saying, he was not an entertainment attorney. He was a corporate attorney. But he didn't understand, you know, all of the legalities of a recording deal. You know, he understood it from a face value perspective. But, you know what I'm saying, if you're not in the business, you're not going to understand a lot of the nuances. You know what I'm saying? And so I felt like now I'm in a position to be able to be that person, not only for myself, but for others that's coming up in the game, that, you know, in order for you to negotiate at least a halfway decent deal, you got, you know, competent representation, you know what I'm saying, that can not only give it to you from an attorney's perspective, but also give it to you from an artist's perspective. So that, you know, it was just a natural evolution, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Speaking of attorneys and first attorneys, I just wanted to put a side note that Matt Middleton great attorney. I know.
Yes,
I know
yes.
that.
He was my second attorney. So yeah.
I was his very first client
Wow. Really?
on your project.
Really?
We we
Wow.
worked at Bloomingdale's together. I remember. I think I had left Bad Boy for whatever reason. He was going to Bad Boy. I think on 17th Street. And he's
Hmm.
like, yo, so how's everything? Going? Yo, I'm about to take my bar. This is that and the other. Because even back then, like I was already involved in the industry, and everyone knew that I knew people. So I
Yeah.
said, yo, if I ever need an attorney, I'll hit you up.
Hmm.
So when this project came up, I think about a year or two, because he was still working at the district attorney's office in Manhattan.
I remember that.
So when I did approach him about it, I told him, "Hey, I'm about to do this track for Tracy Lee. This is that and the other." So I used to go down to the courthouse like after
Mm.
hours, and like when I go to the machines and they were searching me,
Yeah.
looking at me as if like I was a criminal because he was an assistant DA.
Yeah. 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 I remember
You know,
that.
they looked at me, but anyway, so I would go to his office and go up and like we went back and forth, and like I said, and Matt was supposed to we were supposed to talk the other day, but
Mm.
rescheduling. But I'm going to say, and I know he's going to be like, "Damn, why you say that?" I was the one that um taught. I'm not gonna say teach, but I was the one that because when it came to getting my points on the album, I knew as a first time producer and just as being new that I wasn't going to get what I wanted.
Hmm.
So when I presented to him, I said to him, I think I read the Passmore book. All you need to know about the music
Yeah.
industry.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So I didn't know until I read about points. So I was like, wait a minute. So I mean, points, no bumps, not points. I knew points, bumps.
Bump ups. Yeah. After
I'm
after
like,
a certain
I'm
amount of.
like, wait a minute. So I said to Matt, I said, listen, I want, I want 3 points. I want half a bump when it goes gold and half a
Hmm.
bump when it goes platinum. Matt looked at me like, what are you talking about? I said, bump.
Mm.
He's like, wait a minute. So then he did his research and then he's like, oh, and then like I said, we presented
Mm.
mark. I didn't get my 3 points and the bumps, but they wanted to give me two, and that was it. But
Hmm.
renegotiated. I got three with no bumps.
Got you.
I was
Got you.
happy because I got the minimum I wanted.
There
But
you go. There you go. Absolutely.
I,
Good. Yeah. Hey, look. So you should have went to law school.
I
You know.
know, right? Yeah, exactly. And I schooled Matt on that.
There
So
you go.
Matt,
There
yes,
you
I'm
go.
telling
Tell him.
people that
Tell him.
you wouldn't have known.
That's
But
right.
so I know during that time, all of us within the industry, because the industry, as far as hip hop, the hip hop business, I should say, the business of hip hop was still in its infancy stages in comparison to what it is now. So
Right.
we all were at a learning stage because I was an intern at the same time Puff was an intern. I was
Hmm.
at Motown, he was at Uptown.
Hmm.
MCA distributed both labels, so we
Hmm.
was on the same floor.
Hmm.
So
Mm.
rolling with all of the people at the time, like we were educated in certain things. I wasn't even thinking about becoming a writer, and Biggie, like I said, Biggie was my first interview, and that came along because somebody was like, "Well, you know what? You know a lot of artists, people like you. This is that because I was doing part at the time too, and
Hmm.
streaming basketball games. So they was like, you should write, and I'm like, how are you gonna suggest to me to write when you don't even know if I can write?
Wow.
But he hooked me up with the editor in chief of a magazine called One Nut. That
Hmm.
was Barry Wade. I found out later that Elliot,
Pause. Pause. Go ahead.
yeah, Elliot, yeah, Elliot Wilson actually wrote for One Nut after I left One Nut. So that's
Uh,
another fact to throw out there. But
wow. Wow. That's crazy. Everything comes full circle, bro. That's
yeah,
crazy.
exactly. And my first interview was Biggie, and it was a joy because, like I said, just knowing that um, Biggie was already being hailed as like the greatest before even putting out an album.
That's
And that was
crazy.
my first interview, so that was my first interview, and I've been interviewing since. But
That's what's up.
anyway,
That's
um,
what's up.
I want to ask a question because I've had my thoughts about Hip Hop 50. I know
Yeah.
in the new year, but I've wasn't really on board because from a corporate standpoint, because corporate America is going to just do whatever they do for this
Hmm.
1 year and then
Hmm.
just leave it alone.
Hmm.
What are your thoughts on how Hip Hop 50th was handled and going forward as far as the way the corporations, we as artists, people involved in it, it's always going to be part of us. It's
Hmm.
as a matter of fact, when you look at the title, it's My Friends Are Better Than Yours featuring Tracy Lee. Then I
Hmm.
have John 50. Beyond 50 for me is we're still going to be here beyond the 50 years of hip hop. I
That's a
started
fact.
this last year, and that's one of my things. Beyond 50. So I just
That's
want to get your thoughts on how the hip hop 50th was played out from a corporate standpoint, and your thoughts about it.
Well, first and foremost, salute to the culture. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying, for being recognized. Even though realistically it goes beyond 50 years. You know what I'm saying, but just to even be celebrated in such a manner. You know what I'm saying is always it's always a plus for us and huge for the culture and things like that. However, um, I think corporations just saw a money grab. You know what I'm saying? And it's because our culture is a multi-billion-dollar business,
yeah, definitely.
to put it quite blunt and frank. And so when you have that kind of money on the table, of course, the sharks are going to come out and they're going to try to, exploit it and take advantage of it as they always have with our culture. You know what I'm saying? So, and it's not shocking. I'm not surprised or none of that. You know what I'm saying? I guess being human and being such an advocate and a fan of the culture, you know what I'm saying, at least from the essence standpoint, you are a little hurt, you know what I'm saying, by the way it's being exploited and the fact that everybody's not getting recognized and things of that nature. But are we surprised? Are we shocked? Especially after you sit down and you think about it, and you be like, man, it's a money grab. And what they're gonna do is they're gonna continue to put the same faces out in front because that's what they've always done. They do that with radio. They do that with with regards to casting for any type of movies and television shows and things of that nature. People there's a select few that are handpicked to represent us in every facet. But the ones that know better, like you and I, know that this culture is broad and wide, and there's so many moving parts when it comes to our culture that we see right through it. You know what I'm saying? And so, you know, basically, we understand it's a money grab, man, and we understand that when you got that kind of money on the table, that they're gonna take full advantage of it and try to have their hands in any and everything that says hip hop 50 for the entire year. And then what they do, they forget about it when it gets into year 51. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? They're not going to put that kind of money behind us now. You know what I'm saying? Or if they do, it's going to be those select hand-picked few that they decide to put the money behind.
What is Tracy Lee doing now?
Oh man, we continuing to write, we continuing to rhyme, we still MCing, we still, being an attorney, but from a consultation perspective, it's like I get gratification out of, I hate to saying the game is to be sold, not to be told. That's the biggest lie that was ever told to us. Because what that does is it stops us from giving out the information. I get more joy out of giving kids this information. Now, what you do with it is on you. But I'm not gonna hoard the info. I got the info for a reason to pass it down so y'all can do better. So y'all can do better than what we did. So we continue to do that, and we continue to, what I'm saying, be an example and an upliftment for our people. You know what I'm saying, and continuing to push the envelope, push the culture forward, as we say. So we have a new album out. It's called Different. It's on TraceyLeeMusic.com. You name your own price. We're not going to streaming platforms with this record or probably any other music that we're doing moving forward. And that's a whole nother conversation. Big said, as we're not getting paid from that. Let's just be honest. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, you go to TraceyLeeMusic.com. You got the entire catalog on there. But Different is out right now, man. There's 12 tracks. Co-executive produced by my man Ochez. A whole bunch of my girl Lady Alma's on the record, Eric Robinson's on the record, Cy Smith's on the record, a couple other producers that from across the country, across the globe. My girl MC from London and her husband Lindsley, did a banging track on it. But yeah, man, we're pushing the culture forward, man, just like you are, man, with platforms like this, and just keeping our culture alive in a positive way.
Definitely. If you could do anything over again, anything, what would you do? What would you do and why?
If I could, well, let me just say, I think everything fell into place like it was supposed to fall in place. But for the purposes of answering your question, I would have released "Give It Up, Baby." Right? I would have. I mean, my bad. I would have released "Stars in the East" instead of "Give It Up, Baby," and I would have shot it. We would have shot a video for "Keep Your Hands High." You know what I'm saying? Like because to be honest, if "Keep Your Hands High" would because we couldn't even advertise the Big was even on that record. You had to play the record. You know what I'm saying? In order to understand that Big was on the record. So what we had to do is we took it and we white labeled it and serviced it to the DJs. And that's how it really started circulating. But we couldn't advertise. So if I could go back and do things over again, we would get sticker rights, Puff, you know what I'm saying? To be able to say the Bigs on the album, we would have put a video out for that, and we would have released either that or Stars in the East. And then we're having a different conversation if that would have happened.
I'd have my platinum plaque on the wall. I would have projects lined up, you know.
Exactly.
You know. But you know what? Let me ask this question because I've always wondered about this when I heard when they put out the Biggie duets album, I believe.
Yep.
After he passed away, and they actually used his "Keep Your Hands High" verse with Redman and Meth.
Yep.
How did you feel when you did find out about that?
Oh man,
I felt the way only because I know it was your song.
Oh, of course I felt slighted. And shout out to Primo, DJ Premier, who produced it. You know what I'm saying? The first thing that he said, I'll never forget, man. I saw him at a party or something in New York, and he was like, you know, I didn't even say anything, but he was like, yo, Trey, yo, man, it almost like, yo, I feel bad for doing that record. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I'm like, yo, Preem, come on, son. Like, you're Preem, man. And if Puff got a check, you done did business with him before. If he got a check and he wants you to produce it, that's fine. You ain't had nothing to do with taking me off the record. That wasn't your call. So I already know where your heart is, man. So you ain't got to, you know what I mean? And every time we chop it up, it's that same conversation. But of course I felt slighted. You know what I mean? But was I surprised? No, because again, I wasn't even allowed to advertise the Big was even on that record in the first place because I believe either Puff made the call or Arist or Clive or whoever that pulled the strings for Bad Boy and Big and all that. Somebody made the call and say, yeah, he can get on the record, but you can't advertise that because for whatever reason, right? We don't want him to blow up. That's my speculation. I don't know if that's true or not, but we're not going to help him blow up by putting our artist and saying our artist is on this particular record. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, again, you feel slighted because it's like you take me off the record, you put Red and Memphis, salute to them brothers because of course we know they get busy, but it's like Trey don't even exist. Like he did them bars for Trey's album and Trey's record, but he don't even exist. So let's take him out of the fold completely. You know what I'm saying?
I felt slighted, and I had nothing to do with the record.
You know what I mean? But hey, listen, it's all good though. We are right where we're supposed to be. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Where do you think hip hop is going as a culture? And when I say as a culture, I don't mean just the music. I mean as a culture.
Right. Where is hip hop going as a culture? Oh man, it's tough. Of course, the easy answer is going down. You know what I'm saying? It's diluted. It's convoluted. It's again a money grab. You know what I'm saying? A lot of things that existed in the essence of the culture are no longer around. People don't even recognize the other elements of the culture anymore. You know what I'm saying? And everybody just thinks it's rap music. You know what I'm saying? Let's call it what it is. It's rap music, right? But rap music is a part of the culture of hip hop, which has the other elements of graffiti and breakdancing and DJing and you know what I mean? But a lot of people don't even recognize those other elements anymore. And it's kind of sad, man. So but I am always the optimist, right? I'm always of the belief that, sometimes you have to destroy and rebuild. You know what I'm saying? So maybe this is a good thing for the essence of the culture, for it to get diluted and watered down so you can take that culture, the essence of it, and take it elsewhere where it was created, the way it was created in the first place. You got to take it back underground. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. This now this is fuck it. Um,
Yeah.
do you put the blame? I
Mm-hmm.
should. Well, I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you
No,
blame?
put me. Listen, we talking, bro. We talking.
Do you blame the elders for that happening?
A
And then
lot of
before
it,
you, yeah,
yes.
yeah, okay. I was
A
about
lot
to
of
say
it, hell yeah, absolutely.
even before you answer, I'm going to tell you based on my experience because I remember when um I'm going. You know what? It doesn't matter. When the Cool Hercs and all of them, when the Jay Z's and all of them were coming up, they practically ignored them or pushed them to the side. And then when they blew up and they got pushed to the side, then
Mhm,
they started complaining. And I'm
mhm,
saying this because I've been involved in conversations and I've seen things. So I'm
mhm.
not speaking from a I heard. No, I witnessed certain things because I've been involved in hip hop for over 30 years. I grew up in the Bronx. So I see that it's still taking place because a lot of the newer artists or wanted to do certain things, and then the artists that are hot now are doing things are like, sit back, kid. But
Yeah,
then when that kid breaks through and now he's doing his thing, of course he's gonna have the mindset of fuck you because when I try to come to you or try to come to you for advice, you practically push me out the way.
it's a cycle, bro. The
Exactly.
elders did it to us. We doing it to them, so forth and so on. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
absolutely, it's just like when a lot of cats complain about these kids these days. These kids these days, they don't know what's going on. They ain't doing it like we used to do it. Da da da. They don't mind. They have no manners and they out here just shooting everybody. Well, where you think it's learned behavior, bro? Where you think they got the shit from? You know what I'm saying? Kids don't know anything when they come into this world. It's
Yep.
learned behavior, and either you're teaching it in the house or you're paying them no mind and they're getting it from somewhere
Yeah.
else.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying? So yeah, of course, the elders are all to me. The elders are always to blame because they're the ones that know better, and you got to do better and teach kids to do better. And mind the kids that are out there. Don't be afraid of these kids out there. If you are afraid, it's your fault because you're the one that created the monster. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but this is something that has already affected us and will affect us in the future. What's your thoughts on AI? Not just in general, but specifically in music, because it's creeping into music, and it's to a point now where I could actually go into the studio. Right, I don't even have to go in the studio. I could be right here on my computer and do a Tracy Lee song without Tracy Lee even having anything to do with it
Mm-hmm.
because of AI.
You're gonna have to change the laws, man. Like there's no protection for voice. There's protection for recordings, anything that's in tangible form. You know what I'm saying? There are protections for writings, like I said, for the music itself, for the notes, for the master. You know what I'm saying? But there's no protection for the voice. The voice, you can't copyright a voice. They're gonna have to change that law. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna have to change that law. You know what I mean? So otherwise, AI is going to run amok. It's going to be people that's on the charts, right? That don't even exist. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, you're definitely. I mean, it has to. It's going to have to start there. You're going to have to change some of these copyright laws and things like that, protection laws. Original owners of the copyright of the voice. That's going to have to change. You know what I'm saying?
And it's ridiculous that like I mean even with some of the copyright laws we have now where specifically to recording that like because I remember when Dougie Fresh was coming up like he couldn't use his name because the record company owned it or and things of that nature and it's
Crazy.
like but yet you can use my voice just because you're able to duplicate it and like I can't use my name that, I mean, of course, not your real name, but a name that you brought. Like Dougie Fresh had to change his name from Dougie Fresh into Doug
Eve.
E. Fresh, and
Right.
it's kind of ridiculous where we have these laws that specifically helps record companies and publishing companies make money, but
Yep.
the artists that make it, the creative people, aren't as protected. And yet you have like the Spotify's and these companies where a billion streams and you make $14.
Man, listen.
I
Like
mean,
I said, now you're gonna go down a whole nother rabbit hole because that's listen. I've been on a crusade against these, especially from an independent perspective.
yeah,
Like if you sign with a label, man, you really don't have a choice because the labels have a vested interest in the streaming
exactly.
platforms as it is. But as an independent artist, you have no business putting your music on these streaming platforms. None.
And the thing
None.
is, a lot of these independents are doing it because of that's the way they feel they have to, and it's like
We've been duped. Said we've been duped into believing that. You see what I'm saying? That's what another big lie the devil has told us. You know what I'm saying? You gotta get on streaming platforms in order to compete. No, you don't. Yeah, you'll get in front of more listeners, sure. But what does that turn into? You know what I'm saying? Do you have the machine to be able to compile the people from all across the country where you can go into these markets and perform? Because that's the ideal. You know what I'm saying? But you're definitely not getting paid from every time they listen to it. My thing is, look, I'd rather for you to own it and listen to it as many times as you want without a subscription. But at least I'm getting paid for my work. You know what I'm saying?
exactly.
So,
I mean, I know we can go on and
oh,
on, and
sure.
um, I'm just I mean, is there anything that's on your mind as of recent that relating to anything? Because I know that, um, especially when we're older,
Mm-hmm.
things that we don't care about anymore, and then the things that we pick up on. Of course, you have a family, you have a wife and kids, so of course you have family to think about. Actually, now now that it just came to me, your wife wrote a hip hop book, a
Yes.
hip hop children's book.
Two of them.
What I said too,
Yep.
and you're involved in hip hop. So, and like I said, I did write, had an interview with your wife for Black Enterprise, and um, I think I may have asked one of the questions as far as the children coming up in a bona fide hip hop household, and
Sure.
not to take away anybody, because I mean, if my girl, or if I get married and she's into hip hop, that doesn't mean it's not a hip hop household because she doesn't do it. But the two of you are actually have made money through the means of hip hop and through your
Yes.
talent. Like,
Mm.
how do your children see mommy and daddy when it comes to the hip hop? And is there an expectation of them? Because we know we have a lot of people that
Mm-hmm.
do things, but their kids go on a total opposite end,
Mm-hmm.
unexpected. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what is the feeling when it comes to your children? How do they take the hip hop with the two of you being so involved in hip hop?
Oh man, they get it honest, man. My kids are so heavily involved, with music. My daughter knows more old school artists than probably old school cats. Like she could tell you who Aretha Franklin is. She could tell you who Shaka Khan is. Mind you, she's 9 years old. She don't know nothing about none of these new wave. I mean, but that comes from me, of course. But you know what I'm saying? It's just what I listen to in the cars, what I listen to, in the crib or whatever. So, but she don't have to like it, but she loves it. You know what I'm saying? And so even with the culture, even with with rap music and stuff like that, like they gravitate towards it and love it from an honest perspective. Like they get it honest, man. And so I think it's just gonna be a thing where we don't have to force it on them. You know what I'm saying? And I think when they see us, it's like that's just what they do. It's not like because it's a natural thing in this house. You know what I'm saying? It's just we are hip hop kids. Said like we created this culture. You know what I'm saying? And before you even coined the term, if you will, what I'm saying, we were already like this. You know what I mean? It's just that now, I guess in '73 they coined it. You know what I'm saying? But we were this before they coined the term. So this is what we do. This is how we are. This is how we live. This is how we breathe. We are of this culture. We are this culture. And so they're going to get it because they're the offsprings of people that created the culture. You see what I'm saying?
Exactly. And speaking of, I literally just today, I saw a clip of I would say Most Def. Well, Most Def, yeah, whatever his name is today, and
Yeah,
I don't
Yasin Bey.
Yasin Ben. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
the interviewer asked him like, is Drake hip hop? And his response was, Drake is pop. But my thing when I heard that, the first thing I said to myself
From your
is,
calendar,
hip
Jim's
hop
girl's
is pop.
birthday with
Yes, yes,
big.com
So I mean,
starts in 3
yes.
hours
and
at 8
when we were
p.m.
coming up, pop was a bad word
Right,
unless you wanted to make money,
right.
From your
because
calendar,
you
Jim's
know
girl's birthday with
NWA,
big.com
who
starts in 3
fucked
hours
the
at 8
police,
p.m.
they were a pop group,
So
regardless of what the content was.
and so was Run DMC.
Exactly. So if you're trying to make money, pop is the way to go. But I think that we just caught up in the from back then, because of the older artists, of course, are going to feel that have some type of feeling, because at the time, many hip hop artists weren't breaking through.
Right, for sure.
30, 40 years later, like almost every hip hop act is pop, but because pop is what the category for pop was, the Madonnas and the
Right,
Princes and these things,
right.
but they also had their own category where there was rock, R&B,
Yep,
country.
yep.
If it's pop, pop was short for popular.
Popular.
But it seems as if like nowadays, like you'll hear people saying, "Well, I don't want to go pop. I want to be hip hop," and I'm like, you can still be hip hop and pop, and there's no separation of it.
That's
So
right.
and just being that I heard that today, I'm saying to myself, I'm like, um, I think he knows better. But
Hmm.
sometimes people say things, and I'm not saying he does, but people say things to create a conversation.
Well. Like you alluded to, man, pop. In our community has always had a negative connotation. But if you get down to the essence of the word, like you said, it just means popular.
Yeah,
So there are plenty of hip hop artists that became popular and created popular music. You know what I'm saying? So it's really that simple. It's just like you got to
yeah,
take your mindset off of the negative connotation that pop has and look at it for what it is. That's just popular music.
exactly. I'm only going to end this because I know that, like I said, we can go on for like the next 2 hours,
Nah,
and
man, it's been hey, we're gonna have to do a part two, man, because there's so much more to talk
exactly.
about. You know what I'm saying?
But I definitely appreciate your time and your knowledge and wisdom, and good luck with the latest project and any future projects. Of course, if you ever need me for anything, I'm there,
Man,
and,
appreciate you.
and I do appreciate that. Like I said, I'm 90% sure that I'm right when I say this, but being the first rapper that I covered on Black Enterprise,
We're
and
gonna go with that. Even if you're not right,
yeah,
we're gonna go with that. We're going with that.
you're definitely the first rapper turned attorney that
Oh,
I featured
for sure.
on Black Enterprise. So,
That is a fact.
yeah, and you and your wife were the first husband and wife that was covered on Black Enterprise by me for
That's a
two
fact.
separate interviews, as opposed to it being together. So
That's a fact. That's a fact. Well,
we're gonna run with that.
there
So
we go. There we go, man. Nah, man, it was great, man. Thank you for having me on here, man. Of course, said, man, we go back 30 years, bro. So
yeah,
it's always a pleasure and a treat, man. And
definitely.
salute to everything that you're doing, bro.
I appreciate that. And until the next time, and please tell your wife I said hi.
I surely will, bro. I
You know,
surely will.
blessings for everything, and we'll be in touch.
No doubt.
Everybody,
Salute.
thanks. Big Said, Tracy Lee. My friends are better than yours. Keep that in mind.
Peace.
Peace. Oh, this thing. Why does this always do this? Hold on.